there's software manager, and then synaptic package manager. And so you can use a GUI to install stuff if you want to, or if you know what you want. Let's say I wanted to be root. So
This is without having to go into the terminal and do
well, this is the terminal.
apt-get or...
Yeah, apt get.
Okay, so it takes you to... Okay, I thought it was all GUI based.
You can. That's what I was just saying. Well, there's no
Isn't
Chrome
there
package
also
there, but
apt alone now as a package manager?
I have no idea. There's a bunch of package managers. There's also Update Manager, which automatically checks for updates and whatnot. So if we go to Software Manager, it says you want to be an administrator, so you type in your admin password, which is your user's password. And then I can, go and click like Internet, and I want FileZilla.
So it's like an app store.
Yeah, it's an app store before app stores, but sure.
It's a repository.
Well, yeah, because
It's a repository browser.
Right. Yeah,
But if I
Ubuntu
know
has
if I can look up the stuff, so apt cache, search, FileZilla. Okay, so there's the packages and their descriptions, and so I want in FileZilla, and I don't want to sit there and like futz around with this thing. I know exactly what I want to do. I just do apt-get install FileZilla, and then it would install it.
Is there a way to like list all the different packages that you've installed using apt-get install?
It wouldn't be apt-get, it would be dpackage, because apt-get is a front end for the dpackage system.
I don't know what dpackage is.
It's the front end for the dpackage system. So dpackage is like RPM. So RPM is the Red Hat package manager, and Yum is a front end for RPM. And so what Yum does is it handles going out to the repositories, knowing what's around, revisioning and dependency trees. RPM, on the other hand, knows what it needs for a package, but it doesn't know how to get it. And so Yum, what it does is actually uses RPM to install stuff. It goes out, it fetches RPMs, it brings them back, and it uses the Red Hat package manager to install, extract, update, do all that kind of stuff. Same thing for Debian. Actually I think Debian's is older than RPM. I think Deb is actually older than RPM.
And he goes out and looks for things for dpackage.
Yes. So dpackage is how you use, like in a low level, the package management system. But dpackage itself doesn't know how to go out for repositories and stuff. That's apt-get. So
if you want to download a program that's...
So there's all my packages.
So those are...
I did a dpackage list,
Oh.
pipe it into like less, because less is more. And there's all the packages, the architecture, the version, and a description of every package that I have installed on the system.
Like for example, like Wire is a machine.
A lot of stuff.
And so
Nice to meet you.
it's on the repository.
Yeah, everyone.
So you can't actively install Wire, but you can download the .deb, and you use dpackage -- install, and then you put in the name and location of the
So to show you guys a couple of, actually we can show that on the Arch one. So I want to show you mount and how to do a couple of things on the command line. And so what we'll do that is with Arch. And I will be installing Arch using the Arch installation guide. All this, like the thing is Linux is not bad getting things going and getting things installed because all the information's out there on the internet. People have done it. People have been like, I need better documentation, and they've written it. And so, like, don't be afraid. Use VMs. VirtualBox is amazing. There's a bunch of other VM softwares too. If VirtualBox isn't your thing, and like, just don't be afraid to get your feet wet. Because when I first started playing with Linux, it was ridiculous. I probably reinstalled my machine like 20 times because I would break it in some way. I'd be like screwing around, like, oh, what happens if I do this? Oh.
Yeah, I had a desktop. I still to this day have an extra laptop that I just play around in, so I can run things bare metal.
Yeah, and to be fair as well, VMs are great, but running things bare metal will teach you more. Because you're actually having to deal with the hardware. You're having to deal with like how to get wireless drivers working, how to get hardware acceleration. Like if you're really wanting to like learn Linux, install it on a laptop and then try to get games to play and not be terrible. Like,
Is that the Linux School of Hard Knocks?
yeah, pretty much.
Mix.
So the installation guide is pretty straightforward. It's very verbose, so I'm going to basically kind of skip around on it, but I'm going to go straight down the side. I don't need to verify the boot mode. I know it's booted into a BIOS because I'm in a VM. If I'm connected to the network, I'm NATed through, so I'm already connected to the network. Cool. The way you can check that is ifconfig. Ifconfig. And so that's the default VirtualBox network config, which is 10.02.15. And then you can also do IP adder, which is the newer way of doing it, and it shows you the IP addresses and such. Then it wants you to update the clock. I don't really care. Then it wants you to partition the disks. So Arch is a lot like Gentoo. They're actually having you go through and build the system. So I'm going to partition the disk. So I'm going to do fdisk-l to see what disks I have. I have a dev SDA and I have a loop 0. The loop 0 is the ISO. Yeah, So that's the ISO I'm booted off of. And so I'm going to do fdisk dev SDA. That gives me control over this. If I hit M, I get a nice little menu, which is longer than my window. Pro tip, if you want to scroll up and down in terminal, and you're not in X or something, you can hit Shift and page up and page down. But if you ever do this, where you go to a different terminal, you get Alt and F number, F1 through F7, and it'll take you to different terminals. See the TTY there is changing? Now if I go back to the first one, and I hit page up, doesn't do anything. And that's because the buffer is tied to the current running session, and when you change to a new session, it clears the buffer, and you don't have that anymore. So if you have something very important, keep that in mind. You can't go back up when you change those terminals. So here I want to hit P, which gives me my partition layout, which is currently nothing. I'm going to go ahead and hit O, gives me a new DOS label, N for a new partition, and it tells you how to do all, like you can, I'm sure there's actually a, to modify partition tables, use fdisk or parted, see partitioning for more information. So they have a little document on how to do all this, so don't feel bad if you can't just pick this straight up. If you have any questions, though, please let me know. So I'm going to go for partition 1.
Partition disk, never guess.
Oh yeah, you have to know what you're doing here.
Just like Discord.
So I'm going to say my first partition is going to be Linux. It's going to be 512 megs. I'm going to make a new partition. I'm just going to give it the rest because I don't really care about setting up swap. Look at my new partitions. I have 2 partitions. One's 512 meg, or yeah, 512 meg, and the other one's 15.5 gig.
So one's going to be the boot partition and the other one's just going to be the root partition.
Right.
Why do you do that? Why do you make a separate partition for booting?
Boot partitions are important if you're doing LVM. You can't boot into an LVM directly. If you're doing encryption, you can't boot directly into encryption. If you are booting a certain sized disk, some BIOSes need a separate, like basically they can't count high enough. And so I think that was more the original reason, but it's majorly because of you need a boot partition for both LVM or encryption. So it's kind of just standard practice to do that for that. It prevents you from having issues later on.
And also if your LVM gets corrupted, your boot partition still can...
Well, it gets you to the grub and then you can't go anywhere else. But
Right, well, you can well, at least you can know if you have other partitions, you can get to them.
yeah.
So you look into the boot order, so understand.
Yeah, and we can talk about that in the lush if you want. So you hit W to write up to the point where you write. This is a big difference between parted and fdisk. Fdisk, everything goes into memory, but is not written to disk until you write it. Parted writes everything to disk immediately. So you screw up in parted, you screwed up for real. You screw up in fdisk, quit. All right. Next, we're going to do we're going to make file systems. So They want to run ext4? Great. So make fs.ext4. And if you want to see what file systems you currently are able to make, you can just do mkfs and you hit tab twice. It shows you all of the different ones. Now this one actually has it where it's like doing something weird, but a lot of times, most operating systems, it'll just list all the different options that you can do. And it's called bash autocompletion. So I'm going to do, and let's just say you don't, it's it's E something. Make FSE. All right, there you go. Now I have XFAT, X2, X3, X4, and X4 dev. So I'm going to do ext4, and I'm going to do my device, which is devsda1. Devsda1.
Is ext4 standard? Is that the standard file partitioning system? Or
It's the file system.
Yeah, file system. Yeah.
There's partitions and then there's file system.
Yeah, I know. That was
Okay.
something.
So ext4 is one of the standard ones. It was ext3 that was the standard for a long time. Some people also use BTRFS. Some people use XFS. Some people use ZFS, but ZFS is kind of wonky because it's not really in the kernel. It's kind of in the kernel.
It's BSD.
What does Windows use for its?
Windows uses NTFS.
NTFS, yeah, I think so.
Right. And FAT and EXFAT.
Okay, yeah.
You can. They've gotten the kernel reverse engineered NTFS driver to where you can actually build your Linux system on NTFS. It would be insane. Yes. I would suggest. Some people just one of the reasons we would want to do that is, let's say you have a dual booting machine and you wanted to have Windows on one side and Linux on the other, and you wanted to maybe primary your Linux box or something like that, and all your files and all this stuff was on Linux, you could mount the Linux drive in Windows if you were using NTFS.
Yeah, unless you want to add the X.
You can also do the same thing for Mac. It has support for Mac file system. Linux has support for every single file system that's known to man. It's ridiculous. If you want to run DOS file systems, it's got it. You want to run OS2 file systems, it's got it. You want to run mainframe ones, it's got it. It's got everything.
Yeah.
It's got COBOL.
It's what?
There's COBOL.
COBOL?
Yeah.
Cobalt?
COBOL, yeah.
You mean
Well, also programming.
that's a programming
Yeah.
language.
But it's, I'm just mentioning that
Well,
that's there, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got everything and COBOL.
So everything in the kitchen sink. So we'll go ahead and make our other file system. It's only 16 gigs, so it's real quick. If you're doing something crazy like I do, where I have a 23 terabyte file server, file systems take a little bit longer to make.
And encryption.
Long enough to make to go and have a sandwich and come back. The encryption is also another thing. You can do layers and everything, but that's kind of out of the scope of this particular one. Arch, there are ways of encrypting Arch, but you have to do a lot to do that, and we're not going to go over that today.
This command that you did up before the one that you're at right now, it's
FS or FDisk?
no, it's mkfs.ext4. So it's make file system, and then it's saying ext4 is the file
Yeah,
system.
it's actually an option to MKFS. So if I do which MKFS? Here. Oh, that's an actual execute. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's an actual executable. All right. It's got 5 links though. It may actually be hard linked. So NKFS is a program,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
usually
it's just
dot something else is just saying you're invoking that file system, or you're invoking the thing that makes that particular type of file system. And the same thing with mount, and there's a couple of different instances where they have those dot and then something else. So next we're going to mount things. So we're going to mount our we're actually not going to do it. They did that weird. Like usually you have /boot as your first partition. They built it as their second partition. That's very strange, Arch. So I'm doing it backwards from what they're doing. So I'm mount dev SD or A2 into mount. All right. So that if I type mount, it shows me all the mounts, which there's a whole bunch of them. But right at the bottom is the latest one, and you can see that's read write, which is great, and it's ext4, which is great, and it's mounted on that. You can also do df-h and see that we have a little 16 gig partition there. Now I'm going to build a boot partition. So I'm going to make a directory, make dir mount boot, and I'm going to mount dev sda1 to mount boot. So now I mounted that boot partition there. Cool. Next, we don't really care to select the mirrors. They'll figure it out itself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do pack strap. So pack strap, I like the little frowny face. Pack strap mount base. What this does is it actually goes and fetches everything and installs